Thanks so much, Jason. All right, so let's get started. Welcome, one and all. Right, thanks for taking the time out on your very busy schedule to attend this very important session. It is based on tips for job hunting in a pandemic. I'm not going to bore you this evening. I have just 10 slides and some tips and some, I guess, personal information and the feedback to give you on my personal experience as it applies to the same topic. So, therefore, you get a good sense as to how to go about, searching in a pandemic, presenting yourself in interviews, etc. All right. So, as Jason said, we'll have the questions at the end, and hopefully, you learn something coming out of this today. All right. So let's get started. All right. So here we go. All right. So presently, we are in a situation of a pandemic. We have entered what seems to be the new norm. A number of companies are doing online interviews now, and this may very well continue for the next couple of years because they see value in terms of doing it. It saves time and money on their end as well in terms of shortlisting. All right, and many companies are also giving the opportunity, in some instances, to work from home. Right, others are also on the topic of the vaccine, asking you to be vaccinated as well in order to be employed. Right, either way, whichever job path you choose, you have to remain competitive in order to succeed. All right, so I'm going to give you some ideas now in terms of what you should be doing to remain competitive. Right, the first thing you would look at is your resume. Right, that defines you. That is your template. That is your marketing tool. Earlier on, you'd have probably had sessions geared towards resume writing and tips. I'm not here to give you those tips again, but more so in terms of helping you understand how to redefine and update your resume to be more competitive, right? So basically, what you need to do is keep the contents of your resume updated. It not only looks organized, but also keeps you very competitive, right? Don't be afraid to include any relevant information, skills, or experience that will add value to your job application. Many times, people would have had temporary jobs, vacation jobs that they may think is not important to the actual position they're applying for, when in fact it does add some value. So you can determine based on the job you're applying for if it's something that's relevant and you can include it accordingly. All right. Similarly, don't be afraid to remove any unnecessary information that does not add value or does not meet the criteria for the job. So, for instance, you may have worked, let's say, as an example here, you might have worked as a security guard for the mall for vacation period. But of course, that may not be relevant when applying for particular jobs. Let's say if you're applying for a marketing officer position, it's not relevant. It's not relevant experience. So things like that, it clutters your resume and it's a little bit too wordy. So you could remove it. You don't have to include things like that, right? Keep it simple but very effective. Right. This is a very controversial topic. I know may have been covered before. A cover letter. Is it important or is it not important? I would say a cover letter is optional because most companies now have online application processes where you'd enter all your information. To give you an opportunity to attach your resume, copies of your certificates, create a profile, etc., and upload them accordingly for those vacancies. Right? They may also have an ad for a vacancy on Caribbean Jobs, TrinidadJobs.com, with a particular hyperlink you click on that will direct you to a page to apply. So it's just a matter of uploading your resume at that point, and hopefully getting the interview, right? This may eliminate having to submit the cover letter. However, if you get the opportunity to apply directly to someone's email, I would still suggest that you include the cover letter. It's a good idea. It can be a valuable role or a valuable tool in terms of introducing yourself to the employer. You can get a chance to talk a little bit about yourself, your personality, your accomplishments, that kind of thing, and what value you can bring or add to the team or the company itself. Right. So I would say it's still an important tool. It hasn't been phased out completely, but once you have the opportunity to do it, I would suggest that you do include a cover letter when you're submitting an application. He's on mute now. Right. Subscribe, subscribe, subscribe. Yes. This is key. This is very important, right? We want you to subscribe to any recruitment agencies and websites online. All right, they will usually notify you of any by via email of any upcoming vacancies, and you can take advantage of being one of the first persons to apply, right? And you would see this especially with your CaribbeanJobs.com, the popular ones online that you have signed up for. They will send you those notifications, and therefore you can see which ones you can apply to, right? Also, I would suggest um, look at all those online recruitment and job groups on Facebook. There are plenty of them, too many to name. Some are even on Telegram, strange enough, right? And they would typically share information about any advertisements for jobs. All right, so pay attention, look at those things, like and share those pages, and you'll get a better sense of what is happening, from other avenues other than recruitment agencies, or your typical go-tos in terms of getting feedback on where to apply on print media, etc. Right? A very, very important tool that that is important, especially in these times, would be a LinkedIn profile. If you have a LinkedIn profile, that's excellent. That's awesome. If you don't have one, I highly suggest that you do create one as soon as possible, even after this call. You can start with a very basic LinkedIn profile. Reason being is that a number of employers look at LinkedIn to hire persons. Case in point, myself. Um, when I would have worked at Guardian Group, my LinkedIn profile at that point in time highlighted my career history, my experience at the company itself as a recruiter for all the subsidiary groups of Guardian itself, meaning the branches. Now, a company called ICO in the US saw that, right, because they were headhunting in Trinidad. And because they saw it and my experience, they called me for an interview, and I was there, hired successfully for 5 years until I moved on to something else. Eventually, right? And similarly, we will talk about referrals a little bit later on and how that comes into play as well. But what is very important to note is people and companies look at your LinkedIn profile, and now LinkedIn has a lot of options where you can actually go and make updates to your profile, just like Facebook. You can see that you're currently looking for a job. So there's a badge that will tell employees that you're currently looking and whatever experience you have. You can list your experience in terms of categories, so they have different profiles you can go into, whether it's your education, job history, etc., etc. If you're a member of a particular club, etc. If you participate in different events, you can list it there. And the more content you put on it, and the more I would say, network, and the more persons you add, then the greater chance you have of landing something. So I would suggest, in addition to creating the profile, start adding persons at companies. So if you want to work at a particular company X, you may want to see their HR department, their structure, add the company on LinkedIn. Most of them are there. So that's the first step. You'll start adding those companies and also the respective hiring managers or their recruiters, right? And that is a good way to get started in terms of seeing what content they also share. So once you like them, you'll be able to see what content they share on LinkedIn, and that way you'll be able to see what vacancies are posted on a regular basis as well if you follow them. Right? So just like Facebook, how you like and share different posts, LinkedIn is very similar, where you can like and share different things and follow persons, and that way you'll be able to get ahead of the pack in terms of landing a better job opportunity in a faster time frame, right? Um, right. So we spoke about this already. Using it to your advantage, highlighting your experience and showing your status says that what you're currently doing. Now we go to applying. Well, as I say, apply everywhere, right? Use all forms of social media to search for and apply for different jobs. Check online recruitment agencies daily to see what they have posted. Use WhatsApp to your advantage. Some people may even post their status. I've seen this already as a recruiter. People posting up on their status that they're currently looking or they're currently job hunting, and they share it with their colleagues as well. Trinidad is very small, and these things can have far-reaching effects as well, depending on who you share it with, right? Because there are several groups on WhatsApp as well, right? If you're working, however, you're looking for something new, just make sure that your current employer does not see your status there, because people will talk eventually about your business and what you're doing and what you're not doing. So you want to keep it, secretive as well, so that your employer doesn't know that you're currently looking for a job, right? Because some employers can use that against you as well. So just be very careful in terms of how you're doing that, right? Because WhatsApp is very open. Now we come to network, network, network. Trinidad is a small, as I said. Um, Many times you hear people say you need a link to get into a job, to get into company X, Y, or Z. And this may be true, especially for some companies, as many companies now turn to their employees as a source of referral. So for instance, I was at Blue Waters on contract for 6 months recently, and I had implemented a system where there's an incentive. If you make a referral, you get $100, and if the person is successful, that is successfully employed, and they stay and they pass their probation after 6 months, you get another $100. So there was an incentive and a reward for doing so, and it is twofold because companies will utilize their employees who are the best frontline persons to understand the culture of the organization, what the company is looking for, who's the right fit, who can work at the company, and they would make their recommendations based on that. And if the person is successful, they're then rewarded for it. So, many companies typically tend to look at their employees first. They tell them, hey, I have a vacancy for an accounting assistant, an HR executive, etc. Do you know anyone who is interested or available who can fit that job description? And they would send based on that JD, and they may not even have to, as a result, apply or advertise online. As you know, advertisements are quite expensive, right? So if they can get those persons in internally, that's the best bet. Of course, you can also ask your friends on social media which companies are hiring. I've seen many people do that as well. Network on social media, find out from persons, post up stuff. I'm hiring. It's about branding and getting yourself out there, letting employers know that you are looking. Right, that's the point of it there. Right, and the point I made earlier was that some companies may not even post the ad. If they get a good employee referral, then they don't need to. They have someone they can effectively utilize and hire, right, based on their referrals. A lot of companies tend to do that now, right? Be very flexible, okay? Remember, in these times we're in, you may not initially get your dream job, right? If your dream job is to test drive cars or something, and there are no vacancies for those things in Trinidad, you'll have to do something that could get you in the door, whether it's become a admin assistant or receptionist, a sales executive for the car, so that you get a foot in the door, and then basically you work your way up from there, right? So I would suggest, there are many other jobs that are out there. I've seen many jobs and plenty job vacancies that are posted, yet still there are a lot of people who say, well, I haven't seen any vacancies, or I haven't found anything yet. I'm still looking, or I haven't received a call as yet. I'm still looking, or the company isn't interested in me, and etc. etc. So don't put all your eggs in one basket. Use different avenues to apply for different jobs. Try to get your foot in the door, even if it means that you may have to, look at something outside of the norm, outside of your comfort zone, just to get into the company to be able to move into your dream job. And I've seen that in a number of companies, even in the last company I worked with as well, where somebody who would have had a degree, very qualified. Um, and he would have come in to start off as a quality assurance person in a department when he was definitely more qualified and he had more experience. And that was a $5,000 paying job. It was a very entry level job. But the reason why he took the job is because he knew to himself by the end of the year, at the end of his probation period, there will be other opportunities for him to grow internally. Companies also advertise internally as well. And he would have the opportunity to apply for something senior, and then based on his qualifications and his experience, he'd have moved up. So sometimes it's a matter of taking something, taking a risk, taking that chance to start something and start somewhere to be able to start building a career. When I first started job hunting right out of university, I wanted to get into not necessarily recruitment or HR. I wanted to get more into psychology because that was part of my degree as well, HR and psychology. All right, but in terms of applying for jobs, my very first stint was really in a payroll department at the Ministry of Agriculture, and it's not something I really wanted to do because in my mind I hated maths. I wanted nothing to do with maths whatsoever. But when I got into the department, I realized it was part of an HR department, and the payroll wasn't very difficult. It was just a matter of updating Excel spreadsheets, making deductions for employees, putting add-ons, etc. And it became very easy with formulas, and it wasn't something that I couldn't do. It was something very simple that I learned, and I learned on the job itself, right? So it became something very simple to me eventually. And the point is that I took the job because again it was part of a bigger organization. I knew that it was part of an HR department as well, and at some point I'll be able to move and progress within the industry if I decide to stay. But for me, it was more of a learning experience, and it was something that I learned, and it assisted me in the future with different jobs as well. All right, so that's just a personal example to share with you, to let you know that it's not always about the perfect or ideal job. You may have to look at something that is available at the point in time, whatever is available to you to apply for, and then apply yourself accordingly, right? That's where the flexibility comes in. Right. This is not an ad for Mazda. I know the tagline is Zoom Zoom. All right, but we want to get those persons prepared for online interviews. This is a big thing in a pandemic. All companies now, maybe 90 something percent of them, are still doing interviews on Skype, um, on Zoom, Microsoft Teams, even had people do WhatsApp videos as well, right? Depending on what the person can get access to. The company may be flexible using that medium as well. All right. Important things to note. Remember, first impressions last. Dress appropriately if you can. So, for instance, you'll see my background is blurred a bit, or you can change the background, something that's suitable. Ensure you test things before you start any interview. Test your speakers, your headsets, your connectivity. Even have a backup plan. So sometimes, this is Trinidad. Not everything works effectively. You may have the power going down, the internet going down, something dropping. Have a mobile phone nearby with a data plan that in the event that something goes wrong, you can throw a hotspot and connect it and continue with your presentation. I've had interviews in the past where a number of things happened and went wrong on the other end of the spectrum, where the candidate was either too close to the camera because you're using their mobile device, or you weren't hearing them properly because they didn't get a chance to test the audio. And those things can be immediate turn-offs. An employer, they don't want to have to deal with these nuisances, as you would call them. They want to be able to communicate effectively with the candidates. And, having those issues, those seating problems could affect you as well in terms of the selection process. So you want to ensure a smooth delivery. You're very clear to your audience. Your video is clear as well. You can be seen properly on the screen. If there's anything that goes wrong, let it be on the employer's end, not on your end at all, right? Because as I said, first impressions last, and we want to ensure that you give it your all, your full 100% in terms of doing that presentation and acing it. At least even if you're nervous in terms of presenting, at least you'd have had covered all the essentials in terms of being very clear, very clean, you know um wear appropriate clothes when necessary as well. You can never tell what can pop up, what can happen, if you may have to move or do something on the go, right? So don't assume that you're just seeing your face and you can get away with that, right? Assume anything can happen at any point in time. You can never tell. You might have an emergency. You may have to get up and leave and come back to join the call, etc. So cater for anything happening, as well as you may have a noisy neighborhood. You may have noisy pets or dogs nearby. You might want to look into that and maybe move them to another secure area, maybe to the back of your house or so, because it can be annoying if you're doing an interview online with an employer and they constantly hearing a dog barking in the background. That can be very annoying. We did interviews in the past as well, where we had persons not blowing their background, and we could literally see people walking in the back of them. And that again, that was a major turn off. We've had instances where people would have the television set on in the background, and you don't know what content is going on in TV at that point in time. It could be the news, it could be the weather reports, it could be some movie that's going on. So you have to be very careful with these things, right? If these things are happening live in the background, it can be a turn off to the employer as well, and it can mean that they can look at someone else as opposed to you. So you don't want to give the employer any reason to think that you're not professional, you're not paying attention, trying to do your best in terms of putting your best foot forward for the interview. And this is what employers are doing right now. They're doing these Zoom interviews, online interviews. Very rare you'll get persons calling in and coming in for a walk-in interview. And as I said earlier, it saves time and money, and it's a fast way of screening candidates to know if they're the right fit for the job, right? So it's important that you bring your A game when you're doing your interview online. Right, we're coming quickly to the end, and I know I speak quickly here. Have some patience. Remember, you are competing with hundreds and even thousands of applications and applicants. Be patient. The right job will come your way at the right time. Um, be sure to follow up. You don't want to be a nuisance, but maybe after maybe a week or so, if you haven't heard from the employer after the interview has taken place, you don't have to call. You can just send a simple email, of course, thanking them for their time and just following up to find out, hey, is there any feedback on the interview? Do you have any idea as to when I can expect feedback, etc.? It's just a matter of being polite and following up, and sometimes that works because you may have a situation where the company shortlists maybe two or three persons. Let's say in this instance, two persons. They will typically maybe look at the person who is, as I said, not bothering them, but the person who's a little bit more eager, who's more willing, who's more hungry for the job. That's the person who's following up, as opposed to the person who isn't, because they may assume that if the two of them are on the same level, the same par, in terms of their interview with their qualifications and experience, the deciding factor may be the one who is really, hungry for the job, the most hungry for the job. That's the deciding factor. You want to make sure that, that's something that you do as well to follow up. And, just to get a sense as to where they're at so that you know if as well you have to apply for other jobs, if the job has been closed, etc. Because sometimes there's so many vacancies posted online that employers don't get a chance to post up if the job has been filled or that kind of thing. That's something that they're sometimes guilty of doing as well, not doing as well. All right. If you miss out on a particular opportunity, don't take it to heart. Don't be too hard on yourself. Remember, everything happens for a reason. The right job may pop up around the corner. Just keep applying, and then eventually you will start seeing. I have had instances where I've seen friends applying for jobs, and as soon as they get called for one interview, then it's like an avalanche of interviews to follow, literally. So they get like two or three different interviews. They may even get a job offer from a company, and as soon as they're about to start, they get another job offer from another company XYZ. So these things tend to happen, and intentionally so sometimes. But take your time, make your decisions wisely, right? Because remember, this is something that will affect your career path as well, in terms of where you go next, right? And of course, God works in mysterious ways. Have the faith. If it is that you're still, you're not getting through anything at all, we are here to help. As I said, my background is in recruitment. I've hired hundreds, if not thousands, of persons for IGO Trinidad and Tobago, at both locations at Wallerfield and at Barataria as well. Right. I since left to join a new call center that is starting up from scratch, that is going to launch next week, Monday, at the Shogunas location, which is right next to Guardian Life on the highway. All right, and the intention is to build the company out, and have about 10 call centers within the next 10 years in Trinidad and Tobago. So it's very exciting times for persons who want to get into customer service, quality, training and development, etc. There'll be a number of vacancies that they will have opening. I already hired the first two classes for November and December for training, and we will put out more ads as we go along into the new year. Literally for persons to start applying as well for vacancies as they pop up. All right, so look out for those if you're interested in customer service. That's the place you probably want to be in terms of getting a job. So I'm just kind of giving you that as a heads up, right, so to speak. A lot of people don't know about it. It's fairly new. It's now on Facebook. There's also an Instagram page. It's called Call Center Pros. So if you search under that name, Call Center Pros Trinidad, you will see the company locally. There's also a Call Center Pros in the Dominican Republic. So not to get too confused, that is the parent company, literally. All right. The one in Trinidad is where we're going to launch next week, Monday. All right. So that's my 10 point slide, really, in terms of how to effectively hunt for a job in a pandemic, and what you need to do in terms of marketing yourself a bit more to be out there for prospective employers to be able to contact you. And the main things would have been through, just to recap, through social media, through your LinkedIn profiles, through networking. Those are the main areas you want to look at in terms of you're boosting your resume and stuff like that to attract persons to your page, or to attract persons to want to hire you, right? So wish you all the best, good luck. I know now we will probably have some questions coming in, so I can switch now across to Jason. I'll stop the screen sharing, and of course feel free to ask any questions you may have about um, job hunting in a pandemic.
Thank you, Mr. Gopal. Um, I'd like to thank you for an excellent presentation. And now I invite questions from any students that may have questions. You can put up your hand and I will call you accordingly. Yes, Ms. Bruce.
Good day, everyone, and good day, Mr. Gopal.
Hi, good
My
day.
question is basically for online interviews.
Right.
I live close to the roadway where cars are passing frequently. So I'm wondering, um, and I had an online interview once, but I did not get through for the job. So I'm wondering if the location where I'm having the interview would be a problem.
Could be, yeah, just to answer your question, yeah, it could be a turn off. What I would suggest though, do you have a car, or can you do the interview remotely from your mobile device?
I don't have a car, but I can do it from my mobile device as well.
Right. So my suggestion in this case would be, if you can log in with Skype or Teams and do the interview on your phone. I've had persons in Blue Waters, literally, from other companies go into their car at lunchtime to do interviews with us and lock themselves in, so it's quiet.
Okay.
Or you could go to maybe a remote location where it's less noisy, maybe by a family member, so just utilize an hour to do the interview. Or even if there are any internet cafes by you, explain to the person in charge that you have an interview to do. If you can just borrow like an hour, or if there's a room you can use, just to conduct the interview, because it can be a turn off, and I'll tell you why.
Mhm.
Recently for call center pros as well, a lot of it means that your speech, your language, your tone has to be very clear to the audience, to the employer. So part of their assessment would be to do, they ask you 10 questions, and you have to record the answers via video and submit it to the client who's in the DR, the Dominican Republic. There was one girl who did not get through, and it's because her background was similarly was very noisy. And she did tell me when I messaged her, I asked her what was the problem, because everybody else was successful except for her. She said the neighbors next door had chickens, and they were making a lot of noise in the background. So they couldn't hear her clearly. I mean, it was really unfortunate, but she couldn't, at that point in the middle of the video, drown out the noise with a fan also to mask it. So it was too late. So when she submitted the video, she didn't come across clear, and that would have been a problem. So my suggestion is, find a office or space somewhere that you can use, and maybe use your mobile device to get there and get done. That might help.
Okay, great. Thanks so much.
No problem.
Do we have any other questions? Any questions? Rishi, seemed that you did a comprehensive job today.
We have a very quiet group. Yeah, and guys, feel free to, you can add the questions on the chats if you wish as well.
Just to let you guys know that, if it is you're too shy now, you could feel free to contact us at Career Management Services if you have any questions, concerns, advisement that you may need, you could feel free to contact us. Again, you would see in your inbox in emails from me, Jason C. Charles. You can feel free to message me, or you can contact Mr. Gopal. I think his email address was on the last slide that he had there.
I will also type it in the charges.
Okay. All right, we have a hand up. We have Miss Francis, Mariella Francis.
Hi, sir. Only have one question. I remember you stated you could use LinkedIn for for your profile.
Right.
But for a graphic designer, is that a perfect platform for a graphic designer?
For anybody, it doesn't matter across the board because I've seen different companies hire. You see, what you need to do is you'll need to add persons or companies, that would be looking for graphic designers or graphic art. So what you can simply do when you go on LinkedIn and you create your profile, just go in the search bar and just exactly what you told me, graphic art, graphic work, etc. You just type that in, and persons closest to you, you will see start popping up. You just start adding them, especially companies. I'm not saying to add random people, but if you see people attached to certain companies, whether it's an HR professional also, you can start adding them to your network, and that way you'll be able to see what they have to offer in terms of graphic design and vacancies in those areas. So yes, anybody can it doesn't matter which area study in, you can use it to your advantage. And what you can do as well, you can maybe put up some of your work and just ask people to comment on it. People do that. People do large pieces on LinkedIn and they talk about different topics, whether it's oil and gas, current day stuff in the economy, about recruitment, about training and development. Similarly, what you could probably do is put up like teaser pics of work that you have done. So let's say you did work for a company and you're able to push it on LinkedIn. You can start doing that and pulling up little snapshots so that people can see the type of work that you do and therefore use that to communicate and put your contact information. So you can say, this is some of the work I've done. This is my contact information if you need to get a graphic artist. I'm available. I can do Adobe and all these different things. And I can offer my services to you. And that way you can do it. There's also another way of doing it, which is on, I guess you could use Instagram as well, because Instagram is mainly for pics. You can create an Instagram account where you can start doing maybe like some ads, maybe free initially for some persons, and then kind of developing it from there, and then start charging for your services after.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, no problem.
All right, we have a question in the chat. I did my bachelor's in marketing and I'm having trouble getting a job because I lack experience in the field. And a lot of jobs in marketing require experience. How should I go about finding a job in marketing without the experience in the field?
Yeah, that's a common question, not just for marketing, but people who, in different fields as well, and they're not getting the opportunity to apply because when they look at the ad may say, I want someone with 2, 3 years experience in the field to apply. You know, a lot of the times what you would probably need to do in cases like that would be to find out if the company has like internship programs and apply directly, or if you know a friend who works at the company, or make friends with somebody who works at the company and find out more about, if they have any particular referral programs, or as I said, internships also, that you can get your foot in the door that way, so that once you do an internship with the company, they tend to remember you, and once you work well, and they have a vacancy, they can actually pull you in. Or as I suggested previously, it mightn't be, to initially, because you don't see a lot of marketing positions available or advertised. Um, you could probably try getting into something a little bit different in the company, whether it's something reception related or admin related. For now, explain to the HR manager when you're there that you're looking for something in marketing if something were to come up, so that you know your potential as well. So that once you have your foot in the door and you work well, you can kind of build your pathway there eventually. So that's just a way of trying to get into a company without the experience. Um, some companies like call centers, for instance, um, they don't expect you to have a lot of experience in call centers because we don't have many in Trinidad, quite frankly, very small ones. And they may not have trained people to do or take foreign calls. But the good thing is that they provide training, right? So you get it. We don't expect you to have the experience. So you can come across with the right personality fits and the qualifications, and you speak properly, and you're hired, right? And that way, you build your career in the field, and you put some experience under your belt, and eventually you may be able to work into other areas of the company, administrative or otherwise. Some of them do have marketing teams as well, obviously, social media teams. So that's a way again to get into the environment, um, but not directly from an ad that says you need 2 to 3 years experience to apply. Hope that answers your question. I saw Mariella had the same question as well.
Any further questions? All right. We're giving 2 minutes to find out if anybody have any questions. If you remember, you could post it in the chat. You can post it in the chat, or you can raise your hand and we will answer, we'll hear you. All right, Mr. Gopal, it seems that we have no further questions. On behalf of the College of Science, Technology, and Applied Arts, I'd like to thank you so much for your time, your knowledge, your wisdom in the field of job hunting, recruitment, and we look forward to partnering with you for future endeavors. I'd like to also thank the audience, the students who took the time out to, investing in your own development. Take part in this workshop. We have our final workshop on Thursday, which is professional etiquette in the workplace. And I hope to see you all there. And tell the rest of your COSTAATT friends, share it in your groups, share it in your WhatsApp groups. The links are on the email and on our Career Management Services COSTAATT Facebook page. You can feel free to sign up and come, and we look forward to seeing you there. Again, thank you, Mr. Gopal, for your time.
It was a pleasure, Jason, as usual.
And remember, as usual, and Mr. Gopal and I, we go back. He has been doing this for us for the past 7 to 8 years or so. And we look forward to working together again in the future. Take care and have a good evening. Be safe, everyone. Take care.
Thanks again. All the best. Take care. Bye-bye.